What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Tonight, we're going to talk about some of the things that people might have seen in the news. We talk about the Alabama prison system, how atrocious it is, how violent it is, how nasty it is. Some other folks have done videos. We've seen some stuff on CNN, some stuff on Fox News about a young man named Daniel. He ends up getting pretty much crucified in the Alabama state prison system. But we have his legal team on today, Nathaniel Hooper. We also have his parents on here. So we're going to talk about that. But first, I'd like to talk to his parents. Tell the people your names and talk a little bit about you and your life.
Yeah. I'm Terry Williams. I love cutting grass, but I'm a plumber now. Well,
I'm actually a stepmom. I'm Taylor. Yep.
So, we're going to talk about, what happened with your son. He's in Alabama. Tell the people why he goes to jail. Why is he in jail?
He had an assault charge. Somebody was threatening his girlfriend, and they got in an altercation about it. And then
A theft charge.
He had a theft charge, and they gave him 10 split one, and he was serving most of the time in Jefferson County. He had about 3 or 4 months left, and then they sent him to Kilby, sent him to a rehabilitation program, and then sent him to Staten.
2 weeks before this happened. He'd only been there 2 weeks.
He had only been at the prison 2 weeks before what happens, right?
Right. And then he had 2 weeks left once it happened. When he went to Staten, he only had a month left, and he'd be out free.
So he gets 1 year, and they send him to this. Pretty much, he's got to do 1 year, right?
I think he had to do 6 months altogether. That's how long he actually had to sit.
He had a good time at Jefferson County.
So with a 6-month sentence, they put him in this prison that's pretty well known for violence. Pretty much the staff are afraid, the staff that do show up. And do they put him in a cell with this guy that they call him ATL, right? He ends up in a cell with this guy?
Well, it's an open dorm.
I think he was actually in the dorm next to him, but somehow he came in there and got Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel was in C dorm and ATL was in E dorm.
And kind of tell the people what happens. He comes and gets him, you said. What do you mean by he comes and gets him?
3 guys came and got him unwillingly, and tied him up and carried him over to E dorm on a Thursday. And the next Wednesday is when we found out that, he's no longer with us. The warden called and told us that it was an overdose case.
And this is from sources on the inside that have told us this.
So they say it's an overdose case, but we know now from a lot of, research and talking to people that it really wasn't an overdose, right?
Not even close.
I hate to
You can look at him and tell that clearly this wasn't no overdose case.
Let's talk about this. Was he sexually assaulted?
Yes.
And the man that sexually assaults him, he's living in an open dorm. He's in prison for sexual assault and some violent things, right?
Right.
Not his first time, actually, sexually assaulting other men in prison, right?
Right. He got in trouble in another prison in a level 5. And when he got in trouble there, they moved him down to a level 4 facility.
And he just got a new charge in May of this year.
A new charge in May of this year. We can talk a little bit about that. I don't think we can, talk about the victim's name, but we'll refer to that. So he had already raped someone else at the prison, right?
Yeah.
And he's allowed to, rape people and then just be out free, walking around again.
Yeah.
Right.
Obviously, they allow it.
As his parents, as his stepmother, as his father, when you find out what happened to your son and you find out the history, what goes through your mind? What's the first thing you're thinking?
Anger.
Yeah. I wanted to get in trouble to go in there and take care of business, really.
Talk about take care of business. It's a dangerous place, right?
Yeah.
I didn't realize how bad it was until we started doing some research after this.
I've seen some videos that are pretty brutal of, dudes getting beat. I posted some of them in a lot of instances, not on no racial shit, but, it's a lot of white dudes getting punched in the face, kicked, punched, not fighting back. I posted it. I posted another video where they did it to another, young black dude where they were over there beating him up. I mean, it's just a crazy system that's totally out of control, right?
Absolutely.
So what is it? What do you find out? What happens to Daniel? What do you guys find out? What are the details that you guys know?
They, tied him up, shot him up, uh, sexually assaulted him, beat him. I mean, and all this went on for a matter of 5, 6 days, And
They said
from
that
what a
they
couple inmates told me, the COs sit there and watch all this.
will turn their head.
Watch all this and turn their head. A guy by the name of Bernard Jamison, he does a lot of these videos. He's been in prison for like 25, 30 years. He pretty much tries to help people out. He tries to help out black prisoners. He tries to help out white prisoners. And he actually had sent me a message. And in his message, let me see if I can find it while we're on here. He says something about that the cops turn a blind eye, right? He said there's like rampant racism in there, and the black cops are pretty much like, let me see. He says, be sure to let it be known that there's high levels of racial violence in this system. Black officers stand by and watch. The public must know this. This is a message from a guy who obviously has a phone in prison. He's been busted with phones before. But you know what? He's getting the story out there. He's the guy that's the push behind, the videos that are coming out and, some of the gruesome things that you see in here. And it's shocking. But the most shocking part, and we're going to talk to Nate here in a minute, is ATL went to the shoe or to the hole, right? For this incident with your son.
Yeah. And it was a couple days. Matter of fact, the day that Daniel actually passed, he was out walking around and stayed in prison.
So, your son's kind of on life support or whatever, and then he dies. And the same day that he dies, ATL's back on the compound walking around like nothing happened.
Yep.
Doing it to another
Smiling. Yeah.
inmate.
Looking for another boy.
Looking for another boy. Did your son ever call you and say, hey, I'm scared. It's dangerous here?
No, not a bit. We talked to him a couple nights before all this, happened, and he was fine. He was ready to come home and everything. Yeah, we was thinking we'd see him in a couple weeks, but then this happened right here, and
They sent me a picture. I believe it was the Wednesday before all this started. And it was just a picture of him. He got, I guess, a hold of a phone, but he looked fine. I mean, he looked like Daniel.
He's got 2 small children, right?
it was
Now those 2 small
year
children
old and
grew up without a father.
uh,
Let me ask Nate a couple questions.
Sure.
Nate, your input. You want to kind of give us the rundown because you know the facts. I know the facts too, but I'd like to hear them from you.
Yeah, so I guess kind of the way I was introduced to this case, right, was through another activist in the system. You and I have done work for her son, Cindy Hamilton. And she calls me up one day or texts me actually and says, hey, I've got somebody for you. There's kind of an atrocity happening at Staten right now. And I said, of course, send her over. Absolutely. So I get a call from Taylor, and I think it was that date, October the 25th. And whenever we spoke, you said, I don't know where my son is. They won't tell me. They said something happened. They said it was an overdose. They said he's at some hospital. They won't tell us which one. You were telling me there was absolutely no information that was being shared with you. And I said, let's get Chad and I on the phone. Let's get our colleague and friend and member of the legal team, Andrew, the lead attorney on this case, Andrew Menifee on the line. So we do that. We talk about it. And then by the next day, we had a letter sent out that said, hey, warden of Staten Correctional, you are going to have to let the family visit. So we got Taylor, Terry, Daniel's mother, Tammy, and his girlfriend at the time, Amber, visitation rights. And we were even able to get a bond for Tammy's mother. She didn't have one. So she got out on ankle monitor release. We got them over there to visit, and the situation really deteriorated from there. What happened from there? They started putting more and more armed security out there, trying to access or limit access to the family of seeing Daniel's body. They tried to prevent taking pictures. They denied us a second autopsy after his death. Really kind of ADOC, the Alabama Department of Corrections, and the staff there, the medical staff, in a very typical fashion, are very much trying to delay any and all justice. So we're very excited to bring a wrongful death claim against them. And also, additionally, I want to mention that it was just about 3 days ago. Andrew and I kind of collaborated on getting this other individual that was at risk of ATL. We got that man ATL off of the compound. He's elsewhere now, so we hope that they actually appropriately class him this time. And we sent out another message today that other members of ATL's gang, I guess, criminal organization of booty bandits, quite frankly, get moved off that compound.
So he had some other partners with him, and unfortunately, they refer to them as booty bandits. These are guys that take advantage of other inmates. They pretty much sexually raped them. I mean, that's what it is. And ATL was out walking down the compound, but this isn't when I spoke to Taylor and the parents here. But let me say this: he has also done this prior, right?
Yeah.
Right. So he was in prison in the first place, actually, on sodomy 1 and assault 2. In 2019, he caught an attempted murder charge at St. Clair Correctional Facility, which is similar to Virginia's Red Onion. Just one of the very most maximum facility prisons. He was likely in the hole whenever he did it. So, I mean, Chad, I think you've seen people in the hole probably, attempt to murder somebody, assault somebody while they get out for, their hour of rec. They get on handcuff first. I guess it could have been a situation like that. He was convicted on May 15th, 2023, of assault in the first instead of attempted murder. And he was sentenced to 25 additional years. So on May 15th, 2023, he was sent from St. Clair Correctional, which is this level 5, very high level, down to Staten, which is it's known for violence now, but I really think that's mostly because of ATL and his associates, right? Because at the time it was known for being a medium out kind of facility where people get ready for the world. But at the same time, there's absolutely no reason that Daniel should have been at Staten in the first place. I mean, he shouldn't have been at a prison at all whenever he was convicted.
Let me ask you briefly before I get back to Taylor.
Sure.
The warden here tried to cover this thing up, right?
Of course.
They want the family to believe, oh, it was an overdose. They don't want them to see the damage to the body. I mean, what was the damage like on his body?
Oh, it was absolutely harrowing. I mean, they said that basically his skin was black in many places, just black from bruising. The inner parts of his thighs were basically the flesh was so completely black and blue, or I guess it was black and blue at one point, but it was such a fresh bruise that it indicated that somebody pried his legs open. There were abrasions that where people use needles, and Andrew luckily got to visit them at the hospital and kind of I do believe they got some pictures, but they tried to keep them from doing that as well. But trying to preserve that evidence, and luckily Andrew got to see him, so he can also attest to what's going on from a personal perspective whenever we get a little further down the line.
Taylor,
Yes.
when you guys get this call, right? What's it like when you guys get this call and it's like, hey, pretty much, your stepson and your son, he's dead. What's the first thing you think in your
We
mind?
actually didn't even get a phone call from the warden to begin with. The warden called Daniel's girlfriend, Amber, and Amber called me and had somebody else call Terry. But as soon as I got the phone call, I hung up from her and I called the warden myself. And I waited till Terry was here with me. That way he could talk to him too. And I asked him what was going on with my stepson, where he was at and what was going on. And he said, well, we found him unresponsive on Sunday in his dorm, and we took him to the infirmary, and we decided then to transfer him to a free ward hospital. He's on life support, and it's not looking like he's going to make it. That's usually the only time we call the parents. And I was like, no, wait a minute. You found him Sunday. Why are we just now finding out about it on here it is Wednesday? And he said, well, we don't usually call the family until, we think that they're going to pass. And I was like, okay. And I said, well, what happened? How did this happen? And he said, it's obviously a drug overdose. And I was like, okay. We kind of, we were shocked, but we went on, we went along with it until we saw him. And it was a completely different story.
Terry, when you walk in there and you see your son in the hospital, do you know, like, this is it? He's probably going to not make it?
Yeah. I'm just looking at him. My heart hit the ground.
I can't even imagine what that's like. I got two little boys, man. I love them to death. Two little twin boys, but and I know it's got to be difficult for you. You know what I mean? It has to be difficult. Anger, rage, disappointment, sadness. I can only imagine what's going through your mind. Was your son a fighter? Do you think he fought back? Do you think he tried to?
I
Absolutely.
think that's why he was beat so bad because like he fought to his death. Yeah. And also, I had another inmate tell me the same thing that he didn't go out without a fight. Really.
You had
He
some other
wasn't
you
really
had
doing any of this.
some other inmates reach out to you and say, "Hey, man," on cell phones, or "Hey, your son was fighting for his life."
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy Daniel was bunking with, he called me and was telling me about it.
And I've actually got a friend that's actually in state.
Is that kid that was his cell, his bunkie or whatever? Is he still at that prison?
Yes. He's got
Taking the danger?
he's got 99 years, I think he said.
99 years. He better fight back.
Yeah.
You know, have you seen some of the videos, some of the things that are going on in Alabama?
Yeah.
Sadly, yeah, we have.
Now that your son gets murdered there, pretty much. What do you think when you see these videos? I mean, what's going through are you shocked that this is even happening in a prison system?
Yeah, because I had a buddy that had been in Staten before, and it's
Years ago.
nothing like what it is now. You know, he said it used to be like on vacation in there, you know, and now it's like you're not coming out if you go in that place.
How old was your son? Tell the people how old he was.
22,
Just had a birthday.
October.
Just, just turned 22 years old, and he has a month at best when he gets transferred to this prison before he gets out of prison. And they sent him to this pretty serious prison where people are killing people, right?
Right.
What do you think needs to happen there? What do you think needs to be changed?
Everything.
All new wardens and COs, and they need to segregate the people more better than what they're doing. Murderers don't need to be with thieves, you know. Murderers and child molesters need to be in their own place. Thieves and under need to be in their own facility.
You think a lot of these guys should be locked in cells instead of open dorms?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I think everything needs to be changed. I don't think there's anything that's really right going on in there.
And
Here
if you're
you-
in C dorm, there shouldn't be no way possible that you make it to E dorm or any other dorm around there. You know.
Sure, let me ask you this. You go to the hospital, right? Are you able to take pictures of your son?
No, they search me every time I go in the room. They make sure I ain't got no keys, knives.
The 5 guards do.
Yeah.
Who was able to get the pictures? Someone was able to get the pictures, right?
I think Andrew got them, if I'm not mistaken. But they had 5 guards there for somebody on life support.
When you
And
see
they all knew that, you know, he was 90% brain dead and even had him handcuffed to the bed.
handcuffed to the bed, and he'll be out in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Let me, when I first talked to Nate about the case and everything, I think your son was still alive, right? And in my mind, I sat here and I thought about it, and I said, he's going to be all right. He's going to make it.
That's what
Like I wanted to believe that for some reason when I knew, when Nate had relayed the facts to me that wasn't the case. But I was sitting here like, no, he's only 22 years old. He's going to be all right. He's going to, they got him handcuffed to the bed. He's going to be okay. Then I know Andrew goes down there and he visits down there with you guys, and and he gets in the hospital, and I'm like, no, he's going to be all right. And then Nate texts me and says, hey man, didn't work out. And I'm just shocked. As his father, your son's laying there. You do get to go in the room, right?
Yeah, they gave me 30 minutes.
Give you 30 minutes with your son. What'd you say to him, man?
What was that?
So what'd you say to him?
What did you say to him?
That's pitiful. I mean, y'all, I don't see how y'all could sleep at night,
I want to know what you said to your son. Did you touch him? Did you hug him? Did you say, son, I love you?
Yeah, I did. I held his hand the whole time I was in there and did tell him I love him.
Man, bro, I can't even imagine what it's like. You know what I mean? You believe in Christ?
Yeah.
There's a God, man. And I'm praying that your son is with him. And he's got 2 small children, like we said. So, You still look like a young man, but it's time to be a grandfather, man. Be the best grandfather you could be, and take care of them babies, man, and let them know that their father loved them. And it's sad that this is going on. This shouldn't be happening. Um, I want to ask Nate a couple questions before we get ready to go, and we're also going to put up your GoFundMe. Ask people to donate. Anybody that's watching the show and wants to donate to our show tonight, please don't do that. Please donate to this GoFundMe to help raise money to make sure that we, can get the experts, do the things that need to be done so that we can. This isn't, and I'm sorry to say this, but this isn't just about your son. For you, it may not even be that, but it's about other people's sons that are going into this system where, the governor has no control, where there is no accountability. It angers me where people, these people are killing each other and destroying each other and not making their situation any better. You're not trying to get out of prison. You're not pushing for programs. You're not, when you're around killing people, then you know what they're going to do? They ought to lock you in a cell. You ought to be locked in a cell. Maybe you don't deserve a second chance especially when you're assaulting people. And, and I've seen the pictures of ATL. Pretty big dude. Your son, not the biggest guy around. And, there's young kids watching maybe right now with their father. And I want them to not make choices that lead to prison. I want them to say, damn, I don't want to be in a cell with ATL. I don't want to be in a unit with ATL. I don't want this guy grabbing me and, forcing me and to do things that, I'm not supposed to be doing that. That's not normal. I'm really sorry. You know what I mean? I am sorry. And I am a little bit shaken up a little bit by the case because it's horrible. It's disgusting. It's horrible.
I
Nate,
do want to add one thing, if you don't mind. When they took him off life support, and he was given 10 days, is what they told us. They actually transferred him back to Kilby to die by himself after day 3 in the middle of the night.
Hmm.
The warden chose to.
they take him out of the hospital, send him back to a prison.
Without telling us until that night.
They didn't even call him up. They called the sister of Daniel.
Yeah.
What do they take him back to the prison for? Why doesn't he stay in the hospital?
They wouldn't give us an answer.
Yeah. I haven't got no answers to anything except for it's under investigation.
How about the warden? I mean, before I get back to Nate, any compassion from this guy?
No.
No. He's the one that chose to move Daniel back to die by himself.
Hopefully he goes to the deepest depths of hell. And
I kind of want him to sit in a room with ATL for a while.
maybe they could tie him up. Who knows?
Yeah.
Not promoting violence on here, but you get angry about it. Nate,
Yeah.
back to Nate for a second. Nate, what's the problem and how do they fix it, man?
Well, I don't know. That's hard to say, right? Because it's hard to say that the cells, it is a good thought that, hey, you should have a better, you should have a better sense of putting people in the hole, putting people in this shoe. But the issue is, at Limestone Correctional Facility, the biggest facility in the state of Alabama, they do have cells. And they've got issues. So there's usually about 8 officers for about 2,400 inmates, the biggest facility in the state of Alabama. And they have consistent stabbings, people breaking into other people's cells, getting buzzed in by COs, just, by correctional officers, just without any checking or anything like that. There's it's hard to even say indifference, and it's hard to say incompetence, really, because of our knowledge of what the correctional officers are doing over there. They're building the most expensive prison in world history, but the rumor is that there's not going to be any air conditioning there. I really think that it all comes down to the state of Alabama criminalizes virtually everything, and they criminalize virtually everything with life imprisonment. So that's where I'd like to step in on this post-conviction relief that we like to do out there. And I think that's what's going to be the key, in my opinion, because the prison systems won't get better until they're not so completely overcrowded. And they're completely overcrowded by people who have been completely railroaded by the process and have been convicted in kangaroo court. I see it time and time again with yours and I's and mine and Andrew's and all 3 of our post-conviction relief clients. That is where it comes in, is getting these people out of the system that should have never been there.
Nate, you're a young lawyer. You recently passed the bar, pretty good in law school. I mean, you won a bunch of awards. Is it shocking for you to be introduced to this world as a young man that was, college educated, not involved in that type of life? Was it shocking for you to see the things that you've seen in the Alabama Department of Corrections?
To a certain, well, within the ADOC, yes. Within the prison system, absolutely. And the atrocities that we've seen there, oh my gosh, yes. That is something otherworldly. That is something I never anticipated seeing a day in my life. But whenever I was in law school, the entire time I was there, I did a criminal defense internship, and we did mostly homicides. So I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of pretty gory pictures. I've seen a lot of discovery that I wouldn't have preferred to look at otherwise. But I think what stunned me the most is every time I talk to a new client in Alabama, that's within the facility that wants a post conviction relief petition written for them, their stories never change, but they always sound like they're out of A&E or Lifetime or Netflix or something like that. Every single time I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, this should be another Just Mercy. This should be another, this is unbelievable. How does this happen to somebody?" And it's every single time. The abusive process, I think, is one of the most appalling and just bastardization of what the legal system in America is supposed to be. You really don't have constitutional rights in Alabama, and it's sad to say that, but you don't. I mean, not if you're convicted of it, or not if you're sorry, not convicted. Definitely after you're convicted, you don't. But even if you're accused of something, there's no presumption of innocence there. It's how quickly can we get this guy to plead out to life imprisonment?
So pretty much you and me both, like we've helped a few people there, and we've told people, hey, I'd leave Alabama if I were you.
Right.
I want to go back to Taylor and Terry before we get ready to go. Taylor, anything you want to say before we go?
Everything's got to be changed. I mean, this cannot happen to anymore. I mean, it can't happen to any more people. But I mean, these are people that we love, whether they're our neighbors or our friends or our sons or our parents. And it's not okay that they have to go through this.
Terry, it's your son, man. Got anything you want to say before we get ready to go?
I just hope we get justice for all this and hold accountability to the people that deserve it.
I think ATL deserves before we go.
Right. The chair.
Hey, they're not shy about killing folks down there, are they?
No.
Hey Terry, tell them about your proposal for what the chair should be renamed to over there at Gilby.
I was wanting to name it the Daniel chair.
Listen,
And, the ones that did that to Daniel need to be the first ones to get the chair, so if they crank it back up.
definitely not a nice system. I think that people should be outraged. I think people should look into this. I think the national news should be covering this. It's abuse that's out of control. I see, we have this Annie documentary about exposing parchment, right? That was all the things that were going in Mississippi. I actually assisted the guy that took all the video footage down there, right? And he took the video footage. He ended up cooperating with law enforcement, and then the Federal Bureau of Prisons sends him to a maximum security prison, where if people find out, he'll end up getting brutalized. It's Derek Houston, but the Department of Justice in D.C. was involved in what was going on in Parchment for years and years until finally they swept it all up. But while they're investigating, people are being murdered. Same thing going on in Alabama. The Department of Justice has been investigating the Alabama Department of Corrections. And I understand to a certain extent, their hands are tied. But while they're investigating, people like your son are being sexually tortured, I guess you could say. They're being brutalized, murdered. And you know what? The investigation's ongoing, but people are still dying every day. It's almost as if no one cares. The staff members know that the Department of Justice is investigating you. The warden knew at the facility that your son was at that the Alabama Department of Corrections is being investigated. Yet he calls you and tells you that he overdosed when they know the truth, when they seen his body, when the facility more than likely took pictures of him. Yet they tell you that he overdosed. And we know that that's not the case, and definitely going to, prove that in here. So listen, I know that it's a tough time. Sometimes, you go through different stages when a loved one dies. You go through shock and then sadness and anger, and it just different emotions on a different day. And I'm sure you go through it. But I definitely appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate Nate coming on. I'm tell people to go check out the GoFundMe. It's going to be in the links. Please don't donate any money to us tonight. Donate it to this family, to this GoFundMe, because they need it. They need it. And it's not just about your son, sadly, but it's about all the people that are being abused there, whether they're white, whether they're black, whether they're Hispanic. There has to be a total culture change there. Maybe there should be cameras on the officers. That you need to employ people that give a shit, which it's not easy to find nowadays. And they have to take back the prisons. They do not have control of the prisons. And some people might be mad at me because I'm formerly incarcerated for saying this, but I hated when I went to a prison where the staff had no control. You know why? Because I knew my life was on the line every single day. Those were the prisons that I had to keep a knife on me. Those were the prisons where I had to worry about, man, am I going to die in here today? Am I ever going to be able to call my mother? And you know what? Thank God I had a little bit of size with me, and I was a tough kid. Unfortunately for your son, he was outnumbered. He was outnumbered. So again, I just appreciate you guys coming on. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Tell people if you like what we're doing, support these people with respect. Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Until tomorrow, we're out of here.